Hi guys, welcome back. I'm SimUK. I hope you're having a fantastic day. This is Planet Zoo in beta, and as such, it is super duper mega unstable. It pretty much falls over every time I try and start the career. Anything I do, basically, from this screen, it's something to do with the menu, it seems, it falls over. Once we're in game, it's a bit stuttery, there's a few minor issues, but on the most part, it seems okay. Today, I'm going to try and take us through the career. I've already done it once. I did it last night, late last night. I didn't have my microphone on because I didn't want to wake my daughter, because she is super excited about this, way more than I am. And she kept popping in last night and saying, "Daddy, how's my zoo doing?" And I said, "I don't know, darling. I'm not playing on your zoo. I'm trying to do the tutorial so I know how to help you play your game." She's like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, let's try and do the career today if we can.
Ah, heyo at Hematu. Yeah.
Heyo to you too.
Oh, sorry about that. I have a habit of slipping back into the Blanco language.
No problem, Bernie.
It's good to finally meet you in person.
You too,
I'm
mate.
Bernard, although I insist you call me Bernie. The only person who calls me Bernard is my wife. And even then, only when I've tracked elephant dung into the carpets. As you know, I own several zoos, but I always like to show people the ropes here at my home. This is the first zoo I ever opened, and a source of great pride for me. And prides, thanks to a lion breeding program we ran in the 80s. But we're in the middle of a big renovation, and that's where you come in. Sadly, our old contractor had to retire after developing a fur allergy. Poor devil kept sneezing his dentures into the lion habitat. So, it's up to you to finish everything off. Don't worry, though. I'm not completely throwing you in at the deep end. My head keeper, Nancy Jones, will be lending a helping hand. Oh, she's a hard worker, and she'll expect you to be too. But I'm sure you'll get along like a house on fire, or even better, one that isn't on fire. Less shouting that way.
I'm guessing you're Bernie's new hire. Good. Now, I hope you're ready to ditch your diploma because we're about to get really hands-on.
Right you are.
But before we begin the real work, how about we familiarize you with the zoo by learning how to fly around it and visiting some of our beautiful animals. We'll start by popping over and having a look-see at the grizzly bears in their habitat.
Here we go. I see a grizzly. No, I don't. There
Did
he
you
is.
know that grizzly bears, also known as Ursus arctos horribilis, can hibernate for up to 7 months a year? Oh, but then again, given the chance, I think a lot of people would do that too. Select
My
one of
wife
the
would.
bears and you'll bring up its information panel. This is where you can find out all kinds of information about your animal, the most important thing being its overall welfare. You'll learn more about animal welfare today as we go through your objectives, but for now, let's enjoy this magnificent animal. Why don't you select the camera at the bottom of its information panel?
So you can either double click in it,
See now, this is a
or you
fantastic
can
way to
click
get a
and go to
close
the camera
look at your
there.
animals. You can also get this view of an animal by simply double-clicking on it.
Oh, okay. I didn't know she was going to tell us that.
Okay,
But yeah,
when you're
she's
ready,
right.
let's pop over to the other side of the zoo and take a look at the lions. I've
Okey-doke.
marked their location for you to find.
I found it. There they are. Whoa. Oh, wow. The game proper stuttered then. Okay, and here he
Panthera
is.
leo, or the West African lion to you and me. Lions are the most social of the big cats, and there can be as many as 40 lions in a pride, although prides of that size are pretty rare. As Bernie would say, those lions are awesome. Which is precisely why I handle the training instead these days. Anyway, how about we get started on those objectives?
Okay.
Come on, let's head over to our Warthog Habitat and see
right.
what needs doing there.
Let's do that. Let's go do that. Where's the warthog? There it is. Zoom.
As you can see, it's a lovely space for warthogs, but it's missing a certain something. Well, two somethings. The warthogs. So I'd like you to adopt a pair of them. To adopt animals, we need to open the animal market, which is in the animal trading section. There we are, a pair of perfectly splendid warthogs for our zoo. Just click on them and select Buy from the side menu. Normally the animal exchange would be full of animals, but I've emptied out the market while you learn how it works. The last thing I need is you accidentally ordering a dozen elephants.
And I would do that.
When you adopt an animal, it's automatically placed in the trade centre, where they're held until you're ready to move them into their habitat, which, as it happens, you are. So how about you move them into their new home? When you ask for an animal to be moved into a habitat, your caretakers will go to the trade centre, collect your animal and deliver them to your selected habitat. I've marked the trade centre's location, so let's go and watch the caretakers in action.
Oh, there's one.
Well, as you can
super
see,
cool hair.
those caretakers don't hang about. They'll move those animals to their destination as fast as possible.
Look at
Of
his
course,
hair.
normally we'd have to place the animals into quarantine before moving them into a habitat.
If I ever
But
become
am
a big
assured by a
YouTuber, that's how
person
I'm
of
doing
good
my hair.
standing that these warthogs are in the very rudest of health. Right, let's get the warthog's habitat finished up so we can keep them nice and happy. You see, each animal in the zoo has an overall welfare statistic, basically how happy they are. And that overall welfare statistic is itself comprised of 4 different areas: nutrition, social health, habitat, and enrichment. Luckily, if you select an animal, you'll bring up their animal welfare information panel, which we saw earlier, where you can see how they're doing. That way, you'll know exactly what areas need to be addressed. Don't worry if that's a lot to remember. You can always check the Zoopedia for more information. Let's start by making sure we're taking care of the warthog's nutrition welfare. To do this, we'll need to place a food station and a drinking station. Now, each animal requires a different type of feeding station, and for the warthogs, it's a small feeding trough. So let's add one of those and a water bowl.
Done. And I
Animals
think
also require stimulation to keep them happy. Let's add a lovely mud bath for the warthogs to roll around in. That bath will count towards their enrichment welfare, specifically their toy enrichment welfare. Oh, nice work. You've got a knack for this, I see.
thanks,
Now,
Nancy.
Our contractor had to leave in a hurry, so this place is in a feral state. Unfinished thingamajigs and whatsits all over the shop. But the first thing we need to finish is the ostrich habitat.
Okay.
It's over near the hippos.
Now, I have a bit of an issue. Mostly what I've seen of the habitat building, barrier building, and just construction of paths, etc. is very good. But, and I'll highlight it here, I do struggle to replace
Job number 1
parts
here is
of
to
a
add
barrier.
a habitat gate before we complete the barrier. Every habitat needs a habitat gate. After all, how else would the keepers get in and out? Just make sure it's hooked up to the path so the keepers can reach it.
So that's what I've got here, and obviously it wants me to place it in this area. Now this works really well, no problem at all with that.
Let's complete the perimeter barrier so we can adopt us some ostriches. I've marked out an area for you to use, so I'd like you to finish off the perimeter using the brick barrier.
And that bit works pretty darn well as well. And if you come down here and click on straight edges, then you can do right angles, otherwise you can't. Took me a little while to figure that out. I think it's probably the same in Planet Coaster, but
Good work!
whatever.
Remember, before you can place animals in any habitat, it has to have a full loop of connected barrier. Now, you've probably noticed that guests can't actually see into this habitat at the moment. At least not without a stepladder. But seeing as they're banned, I'd like you to select a piece of barrier and swap out the brick for a glass barrier, so the guests can see in.
So you'd think this would be really easy, wouldn't you? So I think this is the only area that I've seen that needs to be fixed. So now I have done this once already, but I'm not entirely sure how I did it, if I'm being totally honest with you, because it just doesn't seem to want to actually do it. So I am struggling. I can't even remember how I did it last time. Now if I could, I would take a piece of barrier out. I don't think I can. I can move the fixed point, but there doesn't seem to be any way. Oh, okay, well that's closer. There we go. It's really funky. Not good at all. And that was due to the stutters. Oh.
There we go. Adding in more windows gives guests even more opportunities to see the animals in a habitat. It's always best to make sure the guests can get a good view into a habitat from the path they're walking on, because it makes them happy, and because this would be a pretty terrible zoo if they couldn't.
Indeed.
The last thing we need to do is to add a donation box. You see, when guests enjoy the view of an animal, they'll make a donation. Just make sure you put them in easy-to-reach places, like near a viewing point. Donation boxes are one of the main sources of income for the zoo, so make sure you remember them. Alright, you've finished the habitat, so it's high time we adopted those ostriches, don't you think?
Indeed.
Let's get 4 of them in here. While we wait for them to be collected by the caretakers and brought to the habitat, you should get it ready for them. Add a suitable feeding station, water station, and an appropriate food enrichment item. It's often best to place things like enrichments and feeding stations near to the habitat perimeter, so guests can get a really good view of the animals.
So that's that done. And that's how you get your first star up.
The ostriches have somewhere they can really stretch their legs. Did you know they can actually run at 43 miles per hour? Oh, heaven forbid they ever escape.
Yeah, right.
A speed camera fines alone would bankrupt us.
So the last time I did this, for some reason
Well, Bernie certainly seems impressed. Did he do his speed camera joke?
Yes, he did.
Every time we get an ostrich. So, now we've made the ostriches' lives a bit better, let's do the same for the keepers, shall we? To make it easier for the keepers to feed the ostriches and hippos, we should build a new keeper hut. Keeper huts are where the keepers prepare the food for animals, so they should be placed near to the habitats to make sure the keepers don't waste their time walking when they should be looking after the animals.
So you can see that these guys are hungry and thirsty, but there's no food. And unless you call somebody here to fill them up, it takes ages. I don't know why, but I nearly lost one of the ostriches last time I did this because it took so long for one of these guys to turn up. But yeah, seems like I've got it working this time, and they should be absolutely fine. Let's move on to this next piece. What are we doing? Facility. Keeper's hut. So if we hold Z, we can really spin it round, or we can just press Z and it will do 90-degree spins like so.
This keeper hut only has space for one keeper, but the larger keeper hut can allow multiple keepers to prepare food at the same time. Oh, but bear in mind that keeper huts and other staff facilities shouldn't be placed near to areas where there are lots of guests. Guests don't like seeing facility buildings, and it can affect their happiness. Negatively. In case that wasn't clear. Something that all facilities, shops, and a whole host of other objects need is power, and that obviously includes your newly built keeper hut. So let's place a transformer next to it, shall we?
Oops. If you press C,
Now,
it gives you
reason everything's
complete
gone
model
blue
manipulation
is because you're using
control.
the power heat map. This map allows you to see what is and what isn't powered in your zoo. So once you've placed your transformer, you can click in the bottom left to turn the heat map off.
So this is the heat map down here, bottom
now
left.
the keepers can start using the hut to
And you
prepare
can change
food,
it to,
and thanks to where you've put it, they won't need to walk very far to deliver it to the ostriches and hippos. Let's get on to your next objective then. Bengal tigers. We want to adopt some, but I'm afraid there's nothing ready for them yet. Head on over to the plot of land I've marked out. It's not too far away.
Okay, thanks for that. So yeah, the heat map's really useful. I mean, especially when you're sort of checking out your animals, you can see that all the animals here are sort of averagely okay, and only the ones that we've just put in ourselves are in. Well, the tigers are in pretty good condition. What's over here? Oh, the turtles, peacocks, they're all okay. Hippo's not perfect condition. But so yeah, there's lots of really good useful information just using the heat map alone. Right, where did she want us to go? Over here, what's this?
Righty, your next job is to build a habitat.
Ah, yes.
From scratch. Well,
Cool.
wood and concrete, I expect. So go ahead and build it. And don't forget the habitat gate.
I won't forget
It's
the habitat.
always best to place the habitat gate close to the keeper hut. As it happens, there's one quite near to the trade centre.
There's a keeper hut over here somewhere.
Oh, and make sure the guests will be able to see the tigers.
Yes. Okay, well, I did this before, and I tried to do it the same way that we did it with the ostriches. So I built the entire thing, and then I tried to add a window afterwards. But because it's in a tutorial, it actually locks it down the second you complete it. The second you sort of secure it all the way around. So I'm going to learn from that mistake. I'm going to try and put the glass in first, and then build the necessary parts on around the outside. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to go with straight edges, and try and get this as perfect as possible. Although the replacement mechanic is a bit funky, and it really is, for the most part, I'd say that the whole building aspect of the game is really very good. And obviously you can construct your own things as well. Are there any other donation boxes over here? I don't think so. So this is the main path, isn't it? Just stick one in there, I think. Alrighty, and let's finish it off with some nice brick. Now, there is a way to shorten the length. There's like a shortcut key. I can't remember what it is. So we'll just do it manually for now. Whoa! Straight edge here. Again, you can't do right angles when you're using the curved wall building tool, which is a smidge irritating, but I kind of get why. I also find it's a bit easier if you sort of bring yourself up above it like that. Just reduce the length again. Straight edge. Now we can go super long. Ah, there's a conflict. Okay. Oh, blast it. Blast it. It's swapped to flipping... swapped to flipping glass again, didn't it? That's what I mean. It is a little bit clunky. See, it did it again. It's not... I mean, if you do it... This is obviously like only the second time I've played this game, but if you do it often, I suppose you'd spot that easier. But yeah, it is a bit of a struggle at the moment. So let's put the gate in, and we'll put the gate in over on this side somewhere where it fits. Oh, come on, please. I can get it to squeeze in there. Right then. Ah, no, that's no good. No, that's no good. It needs to be... Oh, God. Right-clicking also does not remove... How do you delete something? I don't know how you remove a piece of wall. Doesn't seem to be any way to remove it. Oh, there we go. Alrighty. So what I'm going to do here is just take out a section of the wall. Probably that as well. And then I'm just going to put a straight piece across here. Is that? Yeah, that's brick. And hopefully I can fix a gate in there. Perfect.
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously at his zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think?
I think that's a good
idea.
idea.
The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier. Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool. Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a minimum height of 4 meters.
What did she say?
Now, Bernie takes safety very seriously.
I was trying to get rid of that rock.
Zoos, so we should probably make sure those tigers can't jump out of their habitat, don't you think?
I agree. Yes, I agree.
The way we'll do it is by changing the height of the habitat's barrier.
Okay.
Okay then, you should start by double-clicking the habitat barrier, which will take you into barrier editing mode. Great. Now highlight the entire perimeter of the habitat. You can do that by clicking and dragging the barrier selection tool. Now you've got all of the perimeter selected, you can increase the height of it by clicking and dragging the barrier height tool upwards. You'll want to make sure it reaches a minimum height of 4 meters.
Not quite 4 meters there, is it? So, yeah, a little bit higher.
Okay, that's the habitat boundary complete, the habitat gate in place, and most importantly, the tigers won't be able to jump out of it anymore. I think it's time we adopted those tigers.
Let's do it. Go get some tigers. These are a bit more expensive, as you would expect. Select all, send to zoo.
Whilst our trusty caretakers collect and deliver the tigers, let's take a look at preparing the habitat for their arrival.
Yes.
We'll start with the basics. Add a suitable feeding station for them.
So I want to put the feeding station kind of over here. So let's go habitat. Yes. Oh, I have to do it your way. Okay, fine. Pop that just there.
This time, instead of adding a water bowl, let's try something different. Some animals need a pool in their habitat so they can go for a swim, but they can also use it to drink from. All you have to do is make sure the banks of the pool have a gentle slope so they can easily get a nice, refreshing drink. There's already a pool excavated, but you still need to fill it with water. You should do that by going into terrain and selecting the water tool.
There we go.
Yes, that'll do nicely. Of course, just like the warthogs and ostriches, these tigers will also need some enrichment. Why don't you add some suitable toy and food enrichment items into their habitat?
So this is quite a new feature, and it's good. I like it a lot. You've got obviously this displays everything, and you can filter by type: beds and shelters, heaters and coolers, food and water, enrichment items. And then when you're in this filter, you have a sub filter here to allow you to filter by food enrichment, toy enrichment, and climbable enrichment. So if we whack one of these down here and one of these down here, which is basically frozen blood
it's
in
really
a pumpkin.
starting to take shape. Now, the tigers will need a shelter in their habitat so they can hide from the guests, or more likely the bad weather. Although given that we're in England, you might want to think of that just as normal weather. Go on, add a shelter to their habitat. You can either build one from various suitable bits and bobs, or if you like, just pop down the blueprint that I've already built for you.
So I'm just going to use a blueprint this time.
Poor Dabs. I'm sure it can't have escaped your attention that the tigers look a bit miffed. That's because they aren't too keen on the type of terrain in their habitat. Select a tiger and bring up its information panel.
Okay, so
click on the terrain tab. That way you can view the terrain information and see how they feel about the different types of terrain. That'll tell you what the tigers need more of or less of in this habitat.
yeah, so basically,
Okay then, open the terrain editing tool, select painting, and give them some more soil. Yes, that should help with the habitat part of their welfare.
yeah, okay, I'll do that. So basically, this area has, say, 100% square feet. And if 13% of that is short grass and 65% of that is long grass, then by painting a different terrain on it, balances these things out. And obviously you've got to get within the white marker. So we're aiming for less long grass. We could get away with a little bit more short grass, but ideally we're going for soil. Now, as far as I understand it, light soil, heavy soil makes no difference whatsoever. It's just soil. So they're quite happy, I think, to have just soil of any type painted around. We'll do a bit over here. They've got the option. And so we've still got a little bit too much grass, so I need to just paint out some more of this grass. I'm going to make it look as natural and realistic as I can. So what I've accidentally done there is I've got rid of some of the short grass. So if we come over here to short grass, and if I just zoom in a smidge, we can see there's quite a lot of long grass over here. We'll just paint that out, and then we should be fine.
Biome or continent. You know, deserts, savannas, or Asia, Europe, that sort of thing. It looks like these tigers need a few more plants in their habitat. To get a perfect fit, use plants from the rainforest and temperate biomes that are native to Asia. Although if you have to, you can get away with using just one or the other. The tigers will also want a certain amount of their habitat to be covered by those plants. To find out which plants to use and how many, select a tiger and go to the Environment tab.
Okay, so if we click on one of the tigers, come up here and go to the Environment tab.
As you can see, some of the plants currently in the habitat aren't quite right for the tiger, like the wattle bushes. You can remove them if you want.
So we'll get rid of those.
You can find all of the plants you need in the nature section, and you can use the filters to only show the types of plants you want to see. In this case, that's plants from the rainforest or temperate biomes.
So these wattle bushes are not suitable, so we'll get rid of those. And it was the tree, wasn't it? Was it this tree? Acacia tree, yeah. Is that a wattle bush as well? Oh, that's bracken. What's this thing? It's a hawthorn bush. I think that's okay. That's bracken. That's bracken. Okay, so if we go back to the tiger and click on the environment, you should see that there are no wrong type of plants. So what you want to do is you want the continent to be Asia, the biomes to be tropical, temperate, grassland. You come over here to your filter, you open up nature, and you click on temperate, tropical, grassland, continent, Asia, and then effectively all of these plants are suitable for this area. So I know this tree is enormous, and there's some slightly smaller trees available. I'm going to try and just plonk these down in a realistic, reasonable manner so that it looks nice. There. I'll plonk one there. And what you'll find is that certain plants and items give a better boost than others. So you can see here that the coverage is still only 5%. And if I put 2 of those down, does that bring us up to 6%? Not quite. Put a few more down. And eventually it will get up there to 6%. There we go. So obviously something like these little plants isn't going to make a huge difference straight away. But I'll stick some of the really big trees in a second. We can really sort of appreciate how that's going to look. This one is just enormous, isn't it? So we're on 8% at the moment, and this tree will double that up to 16. But is that in keeping? Is that realistic? I don't know. That's for you to decide. There are some shorter, fatter alternatives, but yeah, overall, the bigger the plant, the more effective it seems to be. Okay, let's go finish this off with some bird nest types. Some of these bigger brackeny type bushes are good. Unless you put them in like that and then they look silly. So the manipulation of these foliage models is a little bit tricky, if I'm being honest. If you press... There is a way you can raise and lower them, but I can't remember the hotkey to do that. And I don't want to go look. Not in this video anyway. For the next video I will. The next video is all going to be about building and creating and making the most of what we can. But for the most part, I think it gets the message across pretty well. You can make it look pretty unique. And these are pretty cool. I like these trees. These are more sort of in keeping with the environment. And I'm going to click on one of these tigers again, see where we're at. 18%. Okay, we're very nearly there. A couple of smaller trees to accompany these big trees. I think you'll agree that's starting to look pretty cool, pretty authentic. So there is a way to manipulate these models to sit properly, but just can't remember what the key to do that is. Right, we should be nearly there, I'd say. A couple more bits. A couple of big bushes at the back, maybe. So 25%. So we're there. That should be good then. Right, what's our next objective? Increase plants welfare to 90%. How have I not done that? So they want some elephant ear plants because there's 0% at the moment. So where's the elephant ear plant? Does it look like this one? I think this is probably it. Just want a few of these. There we go.
They say the good fences make good neighbors. I guess that's doubly true when one of the neighbors is a Bengal tiger. Still, those tigers look so happy that I doubt they'd leave, even if you did poke a hole in their fence. Oh, but for heaven's sake, don't test that theory.
Right, let's head over to the Indian peafowls. I've been told that we need to improve their social welfare.
Right you are.
Now then, just find one of the peafowls and select them to open their information panel. Then we can have a good gander at how they're doing. Although technically, I suppose gandering would just be for geese.
Quite funny. Okay, so there's a peafowl.
Expand their social welfare and we can get a bit more detail.
Too few adults. That's the problem.
Now, they've clearly got plenty of space and they're not stressed, but it looks like their social group isn't quite right. So let's find out more. Click on the social tab at the top of their information panel to see what's wrong.
So they need a minimum of 2.
Right, as you can see, the peafowls need their population to be larger. To solve this little problem, you'll need to adopt 3 more female peafowls.
Now that's actually...
Off you pop to the animal market.
That's actually quite important because unlike Jurassic World Evolution, where all the animals are female, here it is important the ratio you have of male to female adult animals, which could be very interesting when you're breeding and one of the child male adults becomes an adult. You might start to see there's a bit of conflict and a bit of fighting there, in which case you would have to move the peafowl or the peacock to another zoo perhaps. Alternatively, you can apply contraceptives to any of the animals, which is quite interesting as well. It's an interesting thing that they've added there, I like. So let's get 3 more peafowls in. We'll have those delivered. Select all 3. Send to the zoo.
Good work on those peafowls. I expect they'll be delivered soon. But sadly, it sounds like our snow leopard is a bit grumpy. Let's head over there and see what's wrong with her.
Okay, snow leopard time. Where are you at? Over here. This is quite cool as well.
Just like people, animals can suffer from stress if things aren't quite right. You know, like when you see someone put in the milk before the tea bag. In the case of these snow leopards, they're a bit stressed by their lack of privacy. You can lower their stress levels by swapping out the normal glass barriers for one-way glass. It's not a cheap option, but I think they're worth the expense, don't you? This will give the snow leopards somewhere to go when they want to get away from the prying eyes of the guests.
So this is actually a lot trickier than... Again, it's the replacing of glass that I just find incredibly difficult. So if I go to barriers, you can see this is a 2-way glass. Well, got rid of that nice and easy. That doesn't usually happen. Now the problem I have is, which way round does it go in?
Of course, when an animal isn't in its natural biome, it's probably going to be too hot or too cold.
So there you go. So I've done it backwards again.
It's too hot, even with the terrible British weather.
You should
help cool it down by adding some coolers to their habitat. But let's start by opening up the temperature heat map and having a look-see at the temperature in the leopard's habitat.
Okay, this time, that isn't even glass. That's concrete. So, I mean, we've still achieved the task because we've given it more privacy. But that isn't what I meant to put in there. So the whole replacing of things is just complicated Because it keeps switching on its own without my permission or knowledge, I guess. You can see, trying to get rid of it now, I don't think it's possible because effectively she's moved on. So I think we just have to settle for that, which is a bit annoying, but you know, the tutorial lets us carry on, so that's fine. What are we doing here? Sorry, open the temperature view mode. Okay, so we go here, temperature, and we can see how hot, cool it is. We've got to add 3 coolers, which I think are in facilities. No, habitat. There we go. So we'll pop one over here, one over here.
You can find heat maps for all sorts of helpful things, so do be
Takes a
sure to
while.
explore them and make good use of them. It'll
Increase
take a little
terrain
while
welfare
for
to
the temperature
100%.
to adjust once you've added coolers or heaters, but now we've got the coolers in, we can address the leopard's terrain welfare. You see, what the leopards really want in here is snow and rock, so let's make that happen.
Yeah, so if you go to terrain, you can see that the snow is quite low, but none of it is red, which is, I think, quite interesting. So I guess what you would have to do is go to the... Oh, why am I still on barrier? Come off here, come off. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So now you can see that you do need to have less grass and more snow and rock. So what we'll do, because rock is a bottom layer, snow is a top layer, so snow can melt and disappear, and when it does, you'll be left with rock, if that makes sense. So we'll go to the terrain and we'll grab the paint. And again, I don't think smooth or rough rock makes any difference at all. So we'll just paint in. Let's take that heat map off so we can see what we're doing. Just going to paint in some rocks. And I'm not going to do it all rock, but a lot of it's going to be rock. Until she's happy. So that's 36%. We'll do some rough rock. I'm going to do that over this side. Just so she's got some, so I think she likes it. And then finally, we're going to put some snow. Now, depending on the temperature of the area that you're painting the snow, it will either melt, which is what's happening in that corner, or it will stay, which is what's happening in this area here.
Then, all of that should give you a pretty good understanding of how to make animals happy. So I'd like you to go and check on all the other animals in the zoo and fix up any issues with their habitats. That'll increase the average welfare of the animals across the whole zoo. And that average welfare is a very important statistic.
Certainly is.
Now, to quickly see how all your animals are doing in the zoo, you should go into Zoo Management and then into the Animals section.
But then you can filter by, well, oh my god, we got some serious problems
As you
here.
can see,
Ring-tailed
this
lemur.
list shows you the animal's overall welfare. So if something's amiss, then you can quickly pop over to them using the Locate button. Right, I'm off for a cuppa while you make sure all the animals are well looked after.
You go have a cuppa, Nancy. Thank you. The sooner you get out of the way, the better. I think actually, yeah, I think he's just been in there and fed them. So we've got some protesters over here because the condition of our lemurs is too low. We've got some protesters here saying we shouldn't have animals in it and so on and so forth. But for some reason, I can't currently click on anything in here. I don't think the lemurs maybe in habitat is allowed to be dehydrated. Look. So, okay, now I can select the habitat. It's a little bit clunky, the beta, I've got to be honest. So, seriously thirsty. You click on here, you can see no water whatsoever, which is weird because there's water here. So, why can't I right click and get a flipping cool keeper? There we go. They're not drinking for whatever reason. I think I'm going to put another habitat thing down. I haven't lost an animal yet, but there's a good chance it's going to happen right now. There's the water bowl. Oh. I don't know why they're not drinking. There's a keeper en route. Let's click on that. We can go see where he is. Here he comes. Slowly but surely. I'm hoping he's going in the right direction. Okay, so he has to go back to the hut. To get, I assume, the watering can and the food and the stuff that he needs. 13 animals starving. This is not good. I think we need some more staff. Can I get some more staff? Will the game let me? So we need some more keepers. Boom. Look, it's exactly the same person. Yeah, that's weird. Right, so we've got loads of keepers now, which is not normally what you need to do. But if I open this, you see they're not eating properly, and I do not know why. There's food there. All they have to do is go and eat. I've noticed this quite a bit. Now, I'm assuming it's just a beta thing, but they get really... I mean, they're like starving so quickly. And when you go and look, they've got food and they've got water. They're just not drinking or eating it for some reason. Now, the other thing you can do, as I mentioned about the heat map, is animal welfare. So you can see they're all green. These lemur guys are still red. And there's like 2 seriously sick lemurs over there. Why on earth they're not drinking, I do not know. Maybe they're stuck, because he's kind of behind that rock. It's possible they're stuck, I don't know. But I'm going to try and get all the other animals up to 100%. So let's go focus on these guys. Now I know what's wrong with these, because I've done these already. So they are looking for enrichment. Toy and food enrichment. So if we go to the... no. Facilities? I forget now. Habitat, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. So food enrichment for... So if you click on here, over on the right hand side it tells you who this is suitable for. So that's elephants and stuff. That's brown bears, black bears. Okay, this one. That's for giraffes, which are in this area, I think. Yes. So that's good for them. But not for the zebras. What are zebras like? These things. Okay. That's for the zebra. And should boost their own. Lovely. Thank you. Food enrichment is better. Toy enrichment. So they want something like this. A rubbing pad, I think. Nope. This one? Yep. Plain zebra. So I'm going to put 2 of these in. Kind of like a car wash. Zebra car wash. And their food enrichment is still low. So what else can I give them? They're not going to want that, are they? Not much the zebras like, it seems. Alright, well maybe we'll just put another one of these in, I guess. I was wondering whether the physics would be that good, and they are. So that's good. So he's 100% now. The giraffes are 100%. That's good. Go back to the heat map and see who else is in need of our assistance. What's this? We have a new lemur, it seems. So, lacking food enrichment. So what are lemurs like? Probably something like this. Maybe this one? Maybe none of these. Ring-tailed lemur, okay. So, I don't think there's enough space. Oh, we can just squeeze it in there. Something weird is happening here. I'm not sure why there are so many lemurs turning up. This certainly hasn't happened to me before. Like an unlimited number of lemurs arriving. Nutrition, hydration. There's water there. Just go drink. I think they must have got stuck.
Not bad at
There we go.
all. I think it's fair to say that you've passed the first part of your training with flying colours. There's
Thank
still
you.
lots more to learn, but we'll have to head to another one of Bernie's zoos for that. If you want to grab your passport, we'll head off, shall we?
Love to. One
Sounds
dead
like
animal.
you got the whole zoo purring away nicely. Well, purring, grunting, screaming, booming. All the appropriate noises. I guess I was right to hire you, huh? Don't tell her I told you, but Nancy wasn't sure you'd even last the morning. So, we're happy this is working out. And Nancy owes me a foxy coffee.
He was stuck. Definitely
As
was
strange as
stuck.
it seems, considering we just met, when I look at you, I feel like you're the child I never had. After the one I did have, obviously. But you see, zookeeping's not for my daughter.
These
Don't
guys
get
have
me
been fighting.
wrong. Emma absolutely loves animals, but she set her sights somewhat higher. Wants to save the entire planet. I'll just settle for saving a couple of species. Oh, and maybe having a type of frog named after me.
So for whatever reason, these two have been fighting. But yeah, that's fine. I think we've pretty much dealt with that. Now, I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure if I can actually progress to the next zoo. I think I'm stuck here now. I think that's where the campaign tutorial ends as part of the beta. So I don't think we can get out of this zoo and onto the next place. But yeah, hopefully that gave you some insight as to what the gameplay mechanics are like. Like I say, it is a little bit clunky, and hopefully the feedback will sort of encourage them to have a look at. Certainly replacing barriers seems really tricky to me, and obviously things like lemurs getting stuck, as yet I don't know. I mean, what you can do, I was going to say, I don't know if you can pick them up. You can't, but what you can do is move them. So let's just have a little, if I click on that and say move, then basically he turns into a box, and that's what happens. So you can kind of move them like that, which I think if they get stuck, that's your only solution. So there is that, I suppose. I could have done that. I didn't think of doing that until literally just then. So yes, it's good. I mean, visually, it's absolutely mind-bogglingly good, isn't it? And the detail and the way in which each of the animals have their own personalities, etc. It's just insane. I'm really looking forward to full release. I can hardly wait. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to. But that wraps this episode up. Thank you for watching. And any questions, suggestions, ideas, let me know in the comment section. I read them all. And I do take into consideration what you guys say. So thank you very much. See you next time. Goodbye for now.